Hey everyone, my name is Jay, and you are watching Kingdom Builder TV, the official video podcast of today's Christian entertainment. I am joined here live by Plumb. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. We're on the Beautiful Offerings tour with Big Daddy Weave and Jordan Feliz, and the tour actually started in late January, and there's actually only 3 dates left of the tour. We're in Lakeland, Florida, so there's only a couple shows left. And my first question is, what's it been like touring with these guys the last couple of months? You're on your last couple of days, and is there anything that sticks out on this tour that may be different from other tours you've been on?
My goodness, yes. This tour, and they already know this, so if they watch this won't be anything surprising to them, but I was super anxious about taking this tour because I have been, although Plumb is me, I have had a band, or been a band, from the inception since 1996, and this is 2016, so we're looking at 20 years of me having a band, and this tour I don't get to bring any of them out, so I was sort of like, I don't know if should I have said yes to this? I'm really anxious, like what if I don't click with them and I don't have my boys, And my tour manager, who's like my brother, is out with me, but I was just really anxious, and God has grown me in ways I was not really even anticipating. Some independence that I've learned, not certainly turning my back on ever having a band play with me, but just that kind of standing on my own a little bit more, and at the same time they do not put on a concert or a performance. They're a part of, like, they help lead people into worship. It's a worship experience, and it's not about entertainment to them, it's about faithfulness, and really, really sensitive to the Holy Spirit. I've never been a part of a tour that puts such an emphasis on what does the Spirit of the Lord want to do tonight, and every night being different because of that. And my respect level for them is through the roof, and just how completely authentic and genuine and anointed that they are, and I just have felt unbelievably honored to be associated, much less supporting them in their tour. And so I've just grown a lot spiritually and even artistically, and just can't say enough about them. And so it's very, very different, and it's they actually come out at the beginning, which is unlike a headliner. Mm-hmm. They come out at the beginning, and then the opener plays, and then I play. They come back out and don't play a ton of songs. Like they don't really overpower me or the opening artist. Jordan is out with us right now, and then in the fall it'll be someone else. But then there's this whole break after they talk about their passion for World Vision, and then it's just a worship where we all come out together and we share equally the stage. And so and we're not out there promoting Big Daddy Weave or Jordan Feliz or Plumb. We're out there literally ushering people into the arms of Jesus, and like being a part of advancing the kingdom of God, and that's just so different.
That's what it's all about.
It is. That's what it's all about. And there's this peace after every show that you sort of, God's kind of smiling on what you're doing, and there's not a lot of room made for you to make it about you. Right. Which I think has been pretty intricate in the way that they line it up.
And I've heard a lot of things about Big Daddy Weave shows. I've worked in media since 2004, covered and promoted a lot of concerts. I have actually never seen Big Daddy Weave in concert. This is the first time in 12 years that I've been doing this stuff. I've never seen them in concert, so I'm really excited. And it's really cool because I've heard so many great things about them when they tour and stuff, and to be able to finally see this for myself is good. And I'm glad they have you along, because I've seen you in concert a couple times, and this girl can sing. She's got some. The song "Need You Now" was a song that makes me want to cry every time I hear it, because it makes me realize, and I know that you touch on this before you sing the song, that it's a song that you wrote that really explains, the kind of circumstances and stuff God's taken you out of, and that through all of that God still comes through for us. Absolutely. And it's just and I get goosebumps every time I hear this song. Every time I hear "Need You Now" on the radio, I get goosebumps, because I remember you telling us about the story of how you were feeling when you wrote that song. And speaking of music, you actually released your last record just almost a year ago, or just a little over a year ago, called Exhale. And many might be interested to know if you have anything else in the works. And I was actually, the question I was going to ask is, a lot of bands do live records, and I would love to see a live Plumb record. You've done 7 records, and I've always wanted to see live because I've seen you live, and I'm like, people need to see her on stage because she's phenomenal.
That is a great idea. Thank you, first of all, and that's a great idea. Maybe, now that you said that, there might be.
Remember, it was my idea. If it happens, I gave her the idea.
Hey, credit where credit is due. So this summer, because the Big Daddy Weave tour is 10 days on, 10 days off, 10 days on, 10 days off, we do that 6 times, so it ended up being 61 shows, and we're in the last few right now, and we take the summer off because it's a lot of shows. And then we come back in the fall, and I do another 61 shows with them in the fall, and then take off Christmas. And so for the summer, I just took half a dozen festivals. They were specifically for a reason, because in general I was not going to do any touring at all over the summer, and so I'm just doing a few festivals. And since I will have such a down summer before the fall out with them, I'm working on another book. I'm always songwriting, and that's just kind of a constant with me. And so if I had to make a record tomorrow, I could, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the record that should be made.
Right.
And so I'm always writing and gearing up for what the next thing is. But right now, immediately, I feel like the next thing is a book that I'm writing, and it's tentatively titled Team Us, which is the book that I wrote, kind of a memoir telling my story, which is called Need You Now, A Story of Hope. I tell my whole story. This is where I was born, this is how I got signed, kind of all the different facets to me and my struggles with depression and anxiety and different facets in that regard. And then I specifically put a huge emphasis on my broken marriage and the restoration of that. But coming out of that, and all the interviews that my husband and I have had the privilege of doing together, or when I've spoken about our story, one of the themes that comes back up to the surface over and over again is the way community responded to our crisis, which was very biblical, but very opposite of what is happening currently in the majority of a lot of broken marriages. That people in the community of the church don't really know what grace looks like. They don't want to be mean, and they don't want to cut anybody off, and they don't want anyone to feel like they couldn't have forgiveness. And so you don't really know where that line is. You don't really know what it looks like to be the community biblically. Like, how should I handle this situation? And more times than not, a community will respond by almost splitting off into teams, and they're team, Amy and team Johnny, or whatever, and they don't mean to, but they need to be team Amy and Johnny. And in our story, we had this specifically about 40 people that no matter what Jeremy would say about me, whatever I would say about him, it would always come back to, right, but let's talk about y'all and you guys working this out. And there was just some really specific things that happened that are very beautiful, but also very uncommon. And so when we were telling our story to focus on the family and to Family Life Today with Dennis Rainey and all these different huge organizations that are advocates of marriage and restoration, Dennis Rainey took us aside and was like, I will write the foreword if you will write the book about Team Jeremy and Tiffany, about how you might even have to turn your back on your own family to do the will of Jesus, because in situations like that, when a marriage is broken up, families can take sides, and they are well-meaning, and they love that person, and they want what's best for that person, and sometimes they don't see that what's best is for them to encourage reconciliation, and they think they're encouraging that by loving on that person, but man, when they start to sort of indulge in negative conversation about the spouse or what that spouse has done, all they're doing is fueling a potential divorce. And so so anyhow, with us explaining that to him, he was adamant about you've got to get that book written, and it's a resource that they don't have a lot to choose from. And how someone calls in and says, my daughter is going through a separation, or my brother and his wife, or my friend, and they said we need that out there for that person to know who's in the crisis, what kind of community do you need to avoid, and what kind of community do you need to look for,
Right.
but then for the person who's close to it, how to be the appropriate community to the story. And my best friend is a perfect example of how I would sort of unload on how angry I was with Jeremy, and she would listen, and then she'd say, okay, that's great, so let's talk about you. You talk too much, you're really selfish, you're really hard to be friends with. And she would literally pivot back over to me, and I'm going, wait a second, we're talking about my husband, he left, and he's a jerk, right? And she was able to sort of be team us. She was like, yeah, what he's done is wrong, but what you have been doing is wrong too. And so she was able to kind of keep me focused on what I could control, which was me. Like, you can change you can't change somebody else.
Right.
And so to have community in your life that is focused on helping you be who Christ died you to be, so that in turn you can complement what it is you were called to. And so for us in our marriage, it was, to be married and to stay married. So anyway, I'm working on a book.
And with your platform, with anybody who has a platform like you, whether it be like in film or music and stuff like that, I think a lot of people want to see that someone, even Tiffany, can have these issues that I may be having.
Oh,
And I think
yeah.
in a lot of things that, I've interviewed, many artists and athletes and people who work in film, and that's the one common thing, is that a lot of people tend to put you guys on a pedestal, but they don't realize that you guys are just like any of us. God just puts you in a different place than maybe you put somebody else. And I really think that's an awesome part of your ministry, is to be able to minister not just with music, but be able to use your personal testimony in your own life to be able to help other people.
Sure.
It's not just listening to a song, oh, I like that song. With your book, I read pieces of the book. I got the Reader's Digest version, but
Yeah.
I read some of the book, and I'm like, she's very transparent here with what was going on, and not everybody can do that, especially somebody who, people know who you are.
Mm.
Somebody like me or somebody, a couple people know me, but for you to do that gives other people strength to be able to say, okay, well, if Tiffany and Jeremy can go through that and come through on the other side, then why can't I?
Sure.
And that's amazing. And I'm glad you're writing a book like that, because I like the memoir that you had written before, the stuff that I was reading from that. So I'm excited to know, is that something that's going to be later this year, or are you still in the process of?
We're writing it now, and
Right.
it should be out the goal is for first quarter of 2017. And it just is kind of an expansion of that intricate part in my overall story, but kind of expanding on it from where there's going to be, there has been opportunities to go and speak, because it's, it's kind of exciting as you grow, just in life, much less in your career and in your faith, but to see how God could use you in different ways. And because I started out as, this rock chick with a pink wig, and, I was entertaining the youth groups and trying to be, a role model of modesty.
I remember those pictures.
And purity. Yeah, but just advocating purity and modesty, and then, becoming a wife, and then becoming a mother, and connecting with married couples, and then with parents. And then to go through something that I thought, this is going to shut everything down. No one's going to trust me anymore when they see that, oh, I thought she had her life together, and clearly she didn't. So that's going to kind of mess with their trust in me. And then to only see God take that and people to trust me almost even
Right.
more, because I could be honest and say, I messed up and we fell apart, and this is what I've learned through that. And if anything, in writing the Need You Now, A Story of Hope book, I wanted to inspire people to tell their story. Whether you author it, whether you speak it from a stage, or you're just having coffee with a friend, I want to be an advocate of encouraging people to tell your story, because your story has life-giving hope in it. Someone else needs to hear somebody say, me too.
Mhm.
The second you hear someone else say, me too, you're not alone. And one of the most hopeless elements of that hopelessness path is thinking that you're alone and there's
Right.
no one else to And I've been telling people recently, like, in the most positive way, your story is not unique. Like, your brokenness, it's not the first time God's ever heard of it. You're not the only person that's ever done what you've done. You might feel like it, but whatever is in your situation that's making you feel isolated, in the minority or alone, you're not, even though you might feel like you are. And so the more stories that are out there of saying, hey, I've struggled with this and I've struggled with that, are more and more and more people going, oh man, see, me too. And there's hope in that. And when you can have hope, you can get to the next breath, or the next day, or the next week, or the next month, you know.
And that's really good. And I'm looking forward to that. And the live concert thing, that could actually be a CD in the back of that book.
I mean, you could totally do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can just smack a CD on there and say, hey, I've released a book and a CD.
There we go.
Well,
there we go.
We want to thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. And and your website, you got a website, and you're on Facebook, and I know you're active on social media.
Plumb Music is everything. PlumbMusic.net, Plumb Music on Facebook, Plumb Music on Twitter, and all the other social media. Like, the list just keeps growing, right?
I know,
like,
they have a different social media every week, but we got to join this one.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And you can catch Plumb on the next leg of the Beautiful Offerings Tour, which will start in the fall. So keep an eye on her website and Big Daddy Weaves for more information on that. So on behalf of Plumb, just want to thank you so much for tuning in to Kingdom Builder TV today. And just remember to put Christ first in your lives, and everything else will fall into place. God bless you.